Tipp Today, in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. Slattery'sGarage.ie.
Good morning, welcome along to Tip Today, 1800 938 007. That's our free phone number. It won't cost you if you'd like to make a call to us, and Leanne is producing today. Coming up on the show this morning, I'll be speaking to Father Iggy O'Donovan in just a little while, and he's responding to Mary McAleese's comments on baptism. The loss of factories to Tipperary towns. We continue with that today. We spoke yesterday to Eddie Bulfin about the sugar factory in Thurles, and today we'll be speaking about the glove factory and the loss of that in Tipperary town. I'll be speaking to Martin Quinn about that. Deputy Michael Lowry will be with us just after 10. Ulton has the gardening slot from Arabon. A Tipperary woman talks to us about Tai Chi, and two Rockwell students made great strides at this year's Stripe Young Scientist Award, and we have them live in studio with us. So all of that and more on the way. You can text to WhatsApp on 083 311 3311. You can email tiptoday@tipfm.com. First this morning, though, a story that has completely gone under the radar is a new cost to business that comes into force in just a few weeks' time. And a Tip Today listener brought it to our attention that in order to sell tobacco in Ireland, you must now register with the HSE's National Tobacco Control Office. And starting from the 2nd of next month, the cost of this licence is €1,000. Now that's replacing the old fee of €50. And this will have an impact on small shops and indeed on pubs as well, particularly in rural areas, who will now have to pay at least €1,000 a year to sell cigarettes. Now you may think that this isn't a big deal, but for people who might pop into their local shop for cigarettes and pick up milk and bread and maybe the paper or whatever, they may now instead go to their nearest town and to the bigger shops. A lot of small businesses hugely concerned about this. Now I must admit, we had no idea about this cost, and it was announced seemingly in 2025 in January of last year by Stephen Donnelly, and it seems to have gone completely under the radar until businesses started receiving letters this week to pay up. Now if you're one of those businesses, we would love to hear from you about this. But I know that Ali is out and about for us today, recording with some businesses, and we'll hear about the effect it's going to have on them a little later on in the week. Let's have a look at the front pages of some of your newspapers today. The Irish Independent, and they're bringing you that story that Pat had during our news bulletins this morning. Thousands of patients are being denied the free dental care they are entitled to each year, as more than half of dentists across the country have left the medical card scheme. The Irish Daily Mail, and it's a new love for smiling killer Molly. Convicted killer Molly Martins smiles into the eyes of her new lover as she enjoys her freedom while dog walking in the US. The Irish Times, and the lead story on the Times today: Ireland's exposure to extreme weather is set to increase as latest research by Europe's climate analysts shows underlying conditions are worsening. On the Times today as well, Greenland and Denmark will hold high-stakes talks today in Washington over US ambitions to annex the Arctic island, vowing to go in together and leave together. And also, it's interesting, we brought you this story yesterday, but it's sort of grown legs to some degree. A circuit court judge who described cyclists as having become a nightmare in Dublin was previously fined €600 after pleading guilty 14 years ago to failing to provide a breath specimen at the request of a Garda. The judge in question, James O'Donoghue. The Irish Examiner, the lead story on the Examiner today: the head of a Garda unit specialising in cybercrime has criticised the lack of effective age verification on online sites where sexualised images can be accessed, as Gardaí appeal for victims of the recent nudification trend to come forward. And sad news indeed, the Taoiseach has led tributes to Cork singer, educator and raconteur, the great Sean O'Shea, who has died 3 days shy of his 90th birthday. Of course, best known for his hit song back in 1962 on Puck ar Buile. But he was a fine fellow. I met him quite a few times over the years. Always great company. I got to accompany him on a couple of occasions as he sung on Puck ar Buile. Of course, it being Wednesday, the local papers are on your shelves as well. The Nina Guardian and the lead story on the Guardian today. Tipperary County Council has appointed consultants to help prepare a submission on the controversial plan to pipe Shannon water to the eastern and Midland areas. The Tipperary Star, great front page indeed, under the banner of Hooley in the Hills, Upper Church Strumban, claiming All-Ireland glory after that thriller in Croke Park. And the Nationalist, finally, demolition green light for eyesore of old B&B, a former B&B, and a neighbouring bungalow on a key approach road to Clonmel to be demolished after planners recently approved a major redevelopment for Clonmel. Of course, that's on the Waterford Road there. That's a look at what's making headlines today. Would you like to comment on any of that? And if you would, again, you can text or WhatsApp 083 311 3311. Now, Mary McAleese, former President of Ireland, has described infant baptism as a long-standing, systemic and overlooked severe restriction on children's rights with regard to religion. She was writing in the Irish Times, and she charged that infant baptism violates the Universal Declaration of Human Rights from 1948 and the Convention on the Rights of the Child from 1989. Now, to discuss the piece, I'm glad to be joined by Father Iggy O'Donovan. Good morning to you, Father Iggy. No, we don't have Father Iggy for some reason or other. Let's see if we can get him back. And okay, our phone system is doing wondrous things for us again this morning. Let's see if we can fix that up for you. I'm not sure if you got a chance to read that piece by Mary McAleese, but it certainly has tongues wagging since she put it out there. She said, I have direct empirical experience as a Catholic Church member by baptism for almost 75 years. And she looks to the movie Mary Queen of Scots, would you believe, for background to this. And there's a declaration seemingly in the movie that says Mary Queen of Scots was born a Catholic. And Mary McAleese takes issue and says, in fact, she was not. No one is a Catholic by birth, but becomes a Catholic by baptism. And this is where she sees this as an affront to the rights of children. And she goes on to say that as a consequence of this, church law deemed her to have been enrolled as a member for life with substantial inescapable obligations of membership. So as I say, a lot of people, certainly discussing this. Let's go back because I think we have Father Iggy now. Good morning to you, Father Iggy.
Sorry for the gremlin there.
That's no problem at all, and Happy New Year to you. Lovely to talk to you this morning.
Indeed, Fran, and to your listeners.
You had a look at this piece for us, I think, Father Iggy. What did you make of it?
Well, I had mixed views, and I begin by saying you're talking to somebody who is a strong admirer of Mary McAleese, Mrs. McAleese.
Yes.
I actually drove from New Ross to Drogheda to vote for her once.
Did you indeed?
Yes, there is democratic enthusiasm
indeed,
for you. Indeed. Yes, and because she was a damn good candidate and a great president.
Yes.
No, I had reservations on her piece, not so much about the infant baptism bit, because I have reservations about that myself anyway. And I've done many, many baptisms, both infant and adult, if you like. But I often felt we were going through a charade here and there, and promises were being made on behalf of babies, which we all knew many people weren't keeping, and it was more, if you like, a cultural and social event. But which are important too, by the way. But in any event, what Mrs. McAleese, she said it's mainly a matter of what she called human rights, and she quotes the United Nations Declaration of 1948 of the Declaration on Human Rights,
yes,
and the Rights of the Child, which was 1989. Fine. But I thought she was somewhat selective and simplistic. While agreeing with her thing about infant baptism, generally I have no problem with her there. And she says she has no problem with the theological implications of baptism.
Yes.
But she feels the human rights bit must be addressed. Now, where are my reservations? First of all, she picks only on the Roman Catholic Church. That's the only church mentioned in her article. She may have spoken at greater length elsewhere, but only the Roman Catholic Church are mentioned in the article in the Times. And all other, or most other Christian churches, including the Protestant churches, most of them, and the other great Christian church other than Catholicism, Orthodoxy, with its 400 million members, also have infant baptism. So that why we would hone in on Rome only.
Well, her reason for that, Father Iggy, is she says that she has empirical experience being baptised herself 75 years ago. So that's her point there.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, but at the same time, she's writing in a general sense about baptism. And what I'm saying is it's much more than a Catholic thing. So in that sense, she's not being inclusive, if you follow my drift, Fran.
I do.
The other one I find as well is that the other great religion of the world, which is Islam, they have an initiation service also, especially for boys, which is circumcision. Now, when it comes to baptism, the physical implications is a little dab of this. If the drop of water was poured in your head, a dab of a handkerchief gets rid of it, if you want. But circumcision, on the other hand, which is not freely chosen, it's done as 8 days, very, very young in children. It's certainly not chosen by them or whatever, but it's irreversible.
Yeah, it's a very good point.
To my knowledge, it's irreversible. And so therefore, as I say, when we hone in Catholicism, I think we just want to see the broader picture, that it is not just a Catholic thing, but initiation services belong to many faiths. And as I say, in the case of the Islam and the Jews, it's a much more hands-on operation.
Yeah, no, as I say, I think she's coming at this because she was baptised herself and because she's a canon lawyer as well, to the best of my knowledge. So I suppose
is, and a good one.
Yes. So she's coming at it, I suppose, from those various... it's interesting what you say about Islam, though. I mean, very few people are going to speak out about Islam for some reason or other. Lots of people have...
Rome is a much easier target.
Yeah.
And Pope Leo is a much less threatening person than the Ayatollah and ISIS. So you keep your hands off Islam, generally.
It's interesting. Tell me about your own reservations about baptism and that notion that on behalf of the child, that the parents and the godparents will make this decision. Is that where your issue is, Father Iggy?
You're right. It's interesting to know from a historical point of view, baptism in the early Christian community was adult baptism. Yes. And the so-called godparents were your sponsors. They were existing Christians, some of whom would speak on your behalf, give you a reference that you were worthy to become a full member of the church. And it was an adult giving a reference. Then when infant baptism came, which St. Augustine was largely responsible for, when that came, after some centuries, the sponsors spoke on behalf of the child until such time as the child would reach the so-called use of reason. Now, my reservation, Fran, and I've done many baptisms, that I see groups arrive at the church and promise us to bring the child up in the Christian faith and to this, that and the other is going to be done. And the answer, invariably, most people say that is what they intend to do. Now, many of them will tell you that they don't intend to follow through on that. Very many of them are not believers or practitioners themselves. And in much of this, God is, if you like, the optional extra. But I understand it can be a cultural thing, a social thing, a celebration to which people feel part of, and I can see where they're coming from. But from a theological point of view and so forth, really, it's no more real than, oh my God, the tooth fairy. It's not intended to be followed through on, and many people, I think, would agree with that. Now, I don't want to be too generalized. That's not everyone, but it's certainly a goodly number in my experience. Now, that's why I have a preference for people perhaps later on, as adults, or as young adults at whatever age, can decide if they so wish to become full members of the Christian community. Before that, if you like, we could have maybe an affiliated membership, a naming ceremony, call it what you like, because, okay, apart from the baptism, we give children names as well.
Yeah,
And
you
they
see,
put
the old stuff is still hanging around there, Father Iggy, that, if a child dies unbaptized, I mean, there was a period of time where, the thinking was the child went to hell, and then there was limbo was added to the whole conversation.
Yes, limbo was a sort of a halfway house.
Yeah, and that's still hanging around, sort of, is it not?
It's still hanging around. God rest my mother. I know that she had lost one or two children in, if you like, stillbirths or miscarriages or whatever. And I know that she would have worried about that to the day of her. She went to her grave.
Did she indeed?
And
the poor daughter.
Yes,
yeah.
and then sometimes they had. Nowadays we have these so-called angel plots in cemeteries
Yes.
where the unbaptized were trying to make up for lost time. But there was a great deal of suffering, and sometimes they were buried not in consecrated ground but
right.
outside it.
Yeah.
So that a grieving parent, and you then. Now it mightn't count for so much, but you are then in a believing community that believed absolutely in afterlife, in heaven and hell and all that type of thing. And the idea that your little child had died unbaptized, the fear of where are they suffering, what is it? Now, it caused endless, I think, grief and pain to many parents.
And then Pope Benedict came along and said that the limbo had no basis at all in church teaching, so...
Well, it certainly, nowhere does it appear in Scripture or nowhere does it appear in official church teaching. It was a sort of custom that grew up. It was a way of they didn't want to declare the child totally lost. So by putting them in limbo, a word we use in modern English to mean sort of in between anything, any situation. But at least that has improved. And that sense of guilt has been lifted, and I'm very, very happy about that. But I still... So I have a general agreement with Mrs. McAleese on the infant baptism thing, but about the civil rights and the rights of the child and all that, I think on that one she's being selective and nitpicking for a woman whose opinion I normally hugely respect, because I think to argue about the rights of the child in baptism, because look, many of us, I'm still a believer myself of sorts, but many of us who were cradle Catholics, if you like, very many of us have, to say the least, shall we say, gone our own way, or we become the hardy annuals who pack the churches at Christmas and times like that. I welcome those people who do that too, no problem with it. But some ways I feel that Mrs. McAleese is probably making a big issue out of something that's not a huge issue in most people's lives.
But at least maybe it generates a conversation, which is always a good thing, I suppose. She also speaks about confirmation, so that notion that you can renew the baptismal promises at that point.
Yes.
But would you like that to be the starting point as opposed to be the renewal, if you know what I mean?
It could well be the starting point. As I said a little earlier to you, Fran, the idea that the child would have no involvement with church at all or with the Christian community, because there's more to it than just the baptism bit. The baptism, you like, is simply putting the seal on them, if you like, but the general membership, culturally, family-wise, all the rest of it is there, so that could still be, if you like, an affiliation to the church with the formal ceremony later when they can make a decision for themselves. That is more or less what I would favour. Now, and I am... you mentioned about Mrs. McAleese at least creating a discussion. She did. The same as she did, some of the, shall we say, older listeners might remember about some 20 years ago when she received the communion in the Church of Ireland.
Yes, I remember well, yes.
And, what that did, it created more discussion on Eucharist and communion and real presence and all of the stuff about the Eucharist. It created more discussion on that in a fortnight than had gone on for decades. In other words, it was a good thing, and she created that. And that is the brilliance of Mrs. McAleese. She does that, and I admire her for it.
Yeah.
But it's just that I hope your listeners understand the little reservations I have about her present intervention, though the discussion is good. Like, we wouldn't be talking about it here this morning without her.
Absolutely not. And I was fascinated by the piece, and I thought it was going to go under the radar, but it didn't. A lot of people are teasing this out now, which, as you say, is a good thing, Father Iggy.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And look, there isn't a total definitive answer, because there are very sincere Catholics, and indeed Protestants and others, who like to get their child baptised quickly and early on, and to become, as they would see it, a full member of the Christian community. And I think above all, we must inclusivity, respect both. Others are putting it off more and more so nowadays until the child decides for themselves.
For themselves, yeah.
And,
yeah,
yes,
we had a little grandchild last year, and there was a baptism in Cashel, and Father John's ceremony. I wouldn't be the most religious. In fact, I'm not religious at all, really. But it was the most beautiful.
You're as good as the rest of us.
It was the most beautiful ceremony, Father Iggy. I mean, it was just gorgeous, you know.
No, it is a beautiful ceremony, and I think many parents, even those, shall we say, who are less than fully attached, still, because culturally many people are still very Catholic, but they don't any longer define their Catholicism by strictly church going, if you like.
Yes, of course.
But there are the other aspects, and then the community, because religion is not just a private thing; it's very much community, and it's at its best when it's in the community. And the fact that we're baptized and members of the community, if you like, of that community, however we practice it, some very much, some far little, there is a coming together, and it is important. And
does it surprise you that
I don't want to come across as being anti-baptism. My God, I'm not.
Of course, it always seems that every so often, every few years, Mary McAleese seems to be at odds with the church about something or other, and there was that infamous lack of invitation to the Vatican and one thing and another. But a few of our listeners on this morning say, is it not time for Mary McAleese to pack her bags and to leave the church, because she always seems to have an issue with them?
Your listeners, some of whom may have followed politics, might find it interesting. At one time, Mary McAleese was seen very much as a spokesperson for the church.
Yeah.
And I remember the New Ireland Forum. Now, that's history now at this point. But the spokesperson on the other side, if you like, was Mrs. Mary Robinson.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that since Mrs. Robinson left office, she has rarely commented, except on issues like human rights and poverty in the third world and so forth. She's kept out generally of the current debates on many things. And she's kept, if you like, a very, very dignified silence. And not that she's a coward, my God, she's not. And but Mrs. McAleese seems, I know she's a canon lawyer and so forth, but Mrs. Robinson wouldn't be. But so she feels impelled to comment on religious matters, and by and large does very well, because really, as I remember saying at one point, if we could have lay cardinals, she's some sub we have on the bench who could contribute to church.
Yeah, certainly would in a most controversial way from time to time, I would imagine as well. Father Iggy, it's always a pleasure, and a happy New Year to you, and thank you for coming on with us this morning. And
you might wrap up your programme today with Sean O'Shea and the Pucker
sure.
You're signing off.
Did you know him, Father Iggy?
Oh no, I've seen him singing and so forth, and I remember his lovely version. He had a verse in Irish of that great song in Cork, the Langer. You might remember it.
I do indeed.
He had an Irish verse in that.
Yeah,
and you might be able to dig that up, Fran.
Well, we'll see what we can do on that. Father Iggy, good morning to you, and thank you. Good morning to you. Bye-bye to you now. That's Father Iggy O'Donovan there speaking to us. 1800 938 007. I'm not sure if you got a chance to read that article by Mary McAleese, but if you did, your thoughts, please.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Now, on yesterday's programme, Eddie Bulfin discussed the closure of the Thurles Sugar Factory in 1989, which prompted a huge response from listeners. However, the sugar factory is just one of many workplaces across the county that have closed their doors over the years. Martin Quinn's a regular contributor to a Tipp Today, but his parents worked in the old glove factory in Tipperary Town. He joins me now. Good morning to you, Martin.
Good morning, Fran.
Good to talk to you today. Just for clarity, though, Martin, the glove factory had a couple of outlets, didn't it?
It did indeed. The first was the Sounds Brothers glove factory in the early 20th century. That closed in 1919. And then, I suppose, the major industry of glove making commenced in 1936. And as you know, at that time, Moynton Atira was being founded, and Canon Hayes had a huge influence on rural life, and it helped to regenerate. And the glove making business really took off, I suppose, in Tipperary town, and there was upwards, I suppose, of 200 people employed in the glove factory, which was on the station road, and then you had, we'll say, 50 or more people employed in the lino factory, which was adjacent to it, also on the station road, and both premises were opened by Sean Lemath, the Minister for Industry and Commerce, in 1936. So my parents worked there. My mother worked in the office, and my father was, I suppose, started as an apprentice and became a master cutter there in the glove factory. And he was one of many people. It was a thriving industry in Tipperary town right throughout the 30s and 40s and into the 50s.
What was there a part of that factory in Bancha as well, Martin?
Yeah, that's what I will come on to. It wasn't actually part of that factory now. It was when the factory closed. My father went to work with Jim O'Connor. Jim O'Connor in Bancha started a glove-making industry in Bancha. And I wrote about it actually in my book, Tipperary Talks. It was called Glenara Gloves. And it like the one in Tipperary town, it was also a thriving industry in Bancha. And Jim O'Connor and my father were both hugely involved in GA and in the community. And it was a real place. It was a real place where people would pop in and have a chat, because both of them as well were involved with John Maloney's umpiring team. And so John and people like Theo English and other people from Tipperary GA used to call in there regularly on a Monday morning to discuss the previous day's games. So it was a really thriving industry as well in Bancha.
And was that the Bancha aspect to the story then? Was that because your dad and others saw that there was still the possibility of an industry, even though the one in Tipperary town closed down, Martin?
Yes, very much so. Because we'll say a lot of those that were working in the factory in Tipperary town, then other ones set up. There were smaller ones as well in Tipperary town, and they were bringing people. They were busing people as well. And people were working from their homes, so they had the material at their homes and they were stitching the gloves or whatever. So it was there was a real need for it in Tipperary town, and at the time, and they saw that there was a huge need for it. And we said the gloves themselves then were being dispatched to, we said the likes of Cleary's and places like that in Dublin, so there was a huge demand for the gloves, not only nationally, but they were going out of the country. They were going to England as well. They were being dispatched to England. So it was Cleary's and Switzer's. I remember my father often boxing up the gloves for being dispatched to the railway station. So for onward delivery to some of those places.
So these were high-end product then?
Oh, they were very much high-end. They were seen as being the cream of the crop, if you like. And I remember my father even doing work from home and stitched the gloves, and he had the shears and he had the leather and he had the fingers and cutting out the gloves, and they were real high end. They were lined as well. So the fact that they were being dispatched to the places in Dublin and maybe on to London and places, shows the demand for them.
The original factory that ended up on James's Street then in Tipperary Town, why did that close if there was still a market, Martin?
Well, I suppose, when they closed, that was in the 1970s then, and the demand was starting to wane, for the locally produced gloves. And I suppose the fact that, the companies were coming on board and they were able to produce gloves. But I mean, going back to, when the factory was there at Tipperary Town, I mean, there's a photograph that we have of my father stretching the leather, and that was a feature that was done by the Irish Times. They came to Tipperary to do a feature on the gloves because there was such demand at that time. But as you can imagine, then over the years, it's like a lot of different products. The different aspects of them. I suppose there was cheaper ones produced.
Of course, yes. We spoke about the sugar factory in Thurles yesterday and the impact on the area. And Eddie made the point to us that it still has an impact on Thurles. That closure, it was so profound. The closure in Tipperary Town, Martin, did it have a huge impact?
It did indeed, because of the numbers that were employed there. I mean, you're talking of upwards, there could have been more than even 200 employed. They were aiming to employ 300 originally on the Station Road. Now, I don't know if it ever got to that, but it was somewhere between 200 and 300 people employed. So, as you can imagine, the loss of that to the town was huge and hugely significant. And even the one in Bancha, it was a thriving industry, and not alone were people being employed there directly, but I mean, they were busing people out to Bancha as well. Jim O'Connor used to go and collect people and bring them out to Bancha to work part-time even there. And some of the material was brought to people's homes piecemeal to work as well. So, I mean, that in a small area was hugely significant also. I mean, when Jim O'Connor died, that God rest him, it was a huge shock because Jim died suddenly, and then that meant the closure of the factory in Bancha.
And unlike the sugar factory in Thurles, the glove factory was an opportunity, particularly in difficult years, for women to make a few extra bob as well, Martin. Yes,
there was a lot of women that were employed. I mean, in my book, Tipperary Talks, I write about the Glenara gloves, and I spoke to Michael Lowry, who served his apprenticeship in the factory. He's a Bancha native, but he now lives in Clare, and he served his apprenticeship with Jim O'Connor and my father in Bancha. But he even talks in the book about, a lot of the ladies. He remembers, the Tynans and the Scanlons and, people coming out from Tipperary Town, Norrie Purcell and Queenie Ryan. And there was great employment, and there was a lot of ladies employed because, of course, the gloves were stitched by hand. So that was a job predominantly that was done by the ladies.
It's interesting. Over the coming weeks, we're going to talk obviously about Tam Brands, and Andrew just reminded me this morning about Atari there. You mentioned the Lino factory too. So much taken out of Tipperary Town over the years, Martin.
Yeah, I mean, Tipperary Town, as we often said, Fran, over the years, it became kind of the forgotten town because of the fact that there was so much taken out of the town, as you mentioned. And I mean, after the period there where Tam Brands closed and Atari closed, and then Mass Mutual came and they closed, and there was also a replacement for Tam Brands and they closed. So, there was a huge loss, and there was nothing coming back. And that was the real shock to the town. While the closures were enormous, there was nothing coming back to the town. And that's why it has taken the town so long to recuperate, if you like, as a town. And it is really down to the Tipperary Town Revitalisation Group, that has been responsible for kind of bringing back the town. And it was a period, I suppose, that was very difficult for Tipperary Town, and particularly the town became, known as one of the most disadvantaged towns, and, as I said, the forgotten town.
And can you remember back to those years where there was so much employment? Was there a very different atmosphere around the town, Martin? Was there a swagger in the town because people probably had a few bob, I suppose?
Yeah, sure, there was, as you say, a swagger. There was a very different atmosphere. I mean, you had the main street was a buzz at the time, and all the businesses there along the main street, each one was as good as the next doing business-wise. So, it wasn't a case where areas were struggling in the town. There was all the businesses were doing well, and there was a lot of people. There was a lot of footfall in the town, so there was people coming into the town. We always knew that the town depended, if you like, to a degree on the area, like East Limerick as well, which was coming into Tipperary. And I mean, going back to that era, it's when you think back on it, it's very sad now to think of it, that there was such a change over a period of time, and that there was such a loss of employment in the town. And that, of course, meant immigration, and it meant that people, had to go out of the town to look elsewhere for jobs.
When I knew you were coming on, Martin, it occurred to me, I'd love to know what the late Canon Hayes would make of Tipperary now,
I think that he'd be very glad to see that efforts are being made to bring the town back again, and I think he'd be very glad from that. I think I imagine that he would have been protesting with people when the factories closed, because that would have been his nature. He would have been out there protesting with people. But I think he'd be glad to see, that there are great efforts being made to regenerate the town and to revitalise it. And, I think that I often think about Canon Hayes and what he would think about various aspects of life now, particularly, would say, with his involvement with rural Ireland and all the different things, even with in Bancha, starting up a jam factory in Bancha, to tell you the kind of thinking that he had. And I often wonder what his thoughts would be today.
Yeah, but I often think that we could do with somebody outside of politics with that kind of creativity again,
Yeah, I think so, because, the type of man that he was, he managed to have a great leg, if you like, of political people without being political himself. And going up to the Department of Agriculture to sit in at one stage in order to get what they wanted for the parish plan and for agriculture. And I think that you do need people outside of politics as well as the politicians.
Martin, good to talk to you today, and a happy new year to you and yours. Thanks, Martin. Thank you.
And many happy returns to you and to the listeners.
Thank you. Good morning to you. Martin Quinn speaking to us there. We'll take a break, back with more in just a moment.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tip Today on 1-800-938 007.
Now, as you've been hearing in our news bulletins, there's an exodus of dentists from the medical card scheme, leaving thousands of people without free care. School screenings also in a state of crisis. An Oireachtas committee has been told now thousands of patients are being denied the free dental care that they're entitled to every year after more than half of dentists across the country have pulled out of the medical card scheme. School dental screenings for children are also in a state of crisis due to a shortage of HSE employed dentists. To talk to me about this, I'm glad to be joined now by Aidan Burke from thurlesdentist.ie. Aidan, good morning to you.
Morning, Fran.
And good to speak to you again. Fewer than 600 dentists currently operating under the scheme. You're one of those who stuck with this scheme, Aidan.
Yeah, we stuck with it, yeah. And I think a few of the dentists in Thurles are still in the scheme, which is great. But a lot of people have dropped out of it. The scheme, it's not working very well, unfortunately, for the dentist or the patient at the moment. And a lot of it maybe kind of got worse around COVID time, I think.
And will you tell me what exactly got worse? Is it restrictions from the HSE around the treatments? Is that it?
Well, there's two sides to it. One, there's only certain stuff you can do. So if you have a medical card, you're entitled to one free exam, one cleaning a year, 2 fillings. You can get a denture every 5 years, I think, and a root canal in the front teeth. And if you need extractions or antibiotics, you can get that. So it does limit. So you might have someone that comes in that needs 4 fillings, and then you have to pick which 2 are the most immediate you can do. And then they either have to pay for the other 2 or else come back the following year, which, isn't great in a treatment plan or trying to help someone,
Right, but for long-term dental health, that doesn't sound too sound.
No, it isn't. It isn't. And so a lot of dentists have left. Also, the fee structure hasn't really improved in years and years. So it doesn't. It can be difficult. Depends on the setup of your practice. What the way it is.
Yeah,
that's why a lot of people have left.
Are there ongoing negotiations with the HSE on this, Aidan?
They never seem to be going anywhere. I haven't seen any change in years in it, so I haven't really. Bar very little, but nothing really, nothing of major that's going to bring people back. And what happens is, just say I was in Thurles and there's 3 or 4 dentists there, and next thing one practice leaves and then another practice leaves. Then it puts fierce pressure on the ones left, and then sometimes they leave as well. So you end up with areas where there's no one doing it, and that's kind of what happens. One goes, then it puts pressure on the other, and then the other, and then they become just overwhelmed and they can't cope with it, so they leave as well.
Right, and is your practice under pressure at the moment, Aidan?
It's busy. It's very busy, yeah. It is, yeah. We are under pressure. And then people, you've got staff on the phones under pressure. Everybody's under pressure. Yeah, it is, yeah. It's very busy. And I'd say it's the same everywhere. I don't think it's any different in any parts of the country.
So, just for clarity, what exactly needs to happen here?
I suppose you need more dentists, really. You need more capacity. Now, how do you get that into the HSCs? That's $1 million question. I have no idea, because one, the population has gone up anyway, so there's a lot more people to be treated. And you probably have less dentists. You have a lot of people retired, and you have less people coming through. And I think as well, another thing I notice is you have a lot of young dentists who maybe qualified in the last 10 years, have maybe gone into Botox, and there's less of them probably working in general practice than there was before, and doing facial aesthetics and things like that. It might be less hassle and shorter working hours, and might suit certain people,
And are you saying they've given up dentistry?
Probably, yeah. I don't know. But I certainly see a lot of women I qualified with. A lot of them are doing that.
Now, I knew some dentists had started that in parallel with their dental practice, but I didn't realise it was taking over. Yeah.
Well, not taking over, but there's certainly a percentage of it, which makes a difference. Then, like if you look at a lot of those aesthetic clinics, if you look who's working in them, a lot of them are dentists.
Yeah, because you're qualified. You're qualified in a way, I suppose.
We're quite good at that, and it's all facial stuff, so it is kind of. I don't do, but I know a lot of people do. And also, I know in these clinics you can kind of pick your hours. You could do 9 to 2 or 8 to 2. You can do a morning or an afternoon kind of thing, as opposed if you're in general practice, you kind of need to be there all the time. So
right, but I mean, this is all so serious. Why do you think this isn't being addressed properly?
I don't know. I suppose it's a complex one to fix. There's no easy fix to it. You need to just get more dentists out there. I think it will happen in time. But the problem with a dentist, it takes 5 or 6 years to qualify.
Of course, yeah.
And then you need to hold on to them. And the working conditions need to be appeal to people, you know.
And what about, similar to what's happening with our doctors and nurses who are training here and going overseas and the like, is it more attractive for a dentist to go overseas?
I don't think there's as many going overseas now as there was. Now, there is a thing with the colleges. If you look at the colleges, there could be 50 in the class and there could be 15 or 20 from overseas, non-EU students. Now, they're paying big fees, which probably keep the college going.
To train here and go back home then,
here.
Is that it?
You see, it's very expensive to train a dentist because you go into college and you work in a group and every bit of work you do is overseen by another dentist or by dentists qualified. So you have to have chairs, you have to have setups, and that's quite expensive to run. And I would suspect that colleges use money from overseas students to keep the show on the road, you know.
It's interesting. The whole business of school screening then, you're not involved in that specifically?
No, I'm not involved, but I can see they're under fierce pressure as well, because I can see in toilets, I see people coming into me. They're definitely way behind. They were struggling coming up to COVID, then COVID stopped everything, then it pushed everything back.
Right.
And I suspect capacity as well, people may have retired or moved on and might be struggling to fill positions there.
Right, but the quality of the dental health then when kids are coming to you eventually then, Aidan, what are you seeing there?
Well, sure, look, it's very individual, you know. Some are very good and some are stuff that if they were seen earlier would have been better. But it's unfortunate they're not seen in the school because they put this thing on Fisher seals on, which are a preventative measure that protects their back teeth. And they used to be seen in 6th class and 2nd class, but I think that's reduced down to 6th class now. But if you could get that on, the earlier the better. But it's just not possible, I don't think, at the moment.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, when I was going to school all those years ago, I mean, at least we had that sort of screening in schools even way back then, you know?
Yeah, and same with the orthodontic list is a big, it takes a while to get seen in that. Well. Yeah,
and I don't know, is dental care, is that the poor relation of the HSE to some degree then?
Possibly. Yeah. I think we're there. I suppose the HSE is such a huge organisation, such a huge thing to run that we've probably come down the line a good bit on it. And you see, building a big hospital, the money is involved, and it's a huge organisation.
I know, but unless we have our head in the sand, Ed, we all know that dental health is vital to overall health.
It's very important, to everything. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it's important to people. If you have a medical, do try and get seen. Also, if you're PSI, if you're working, you're entitled to one free exam per year and a subsidised cleaning. So do use it.
Yeah.
And you might have to ring around to find an appointment, but do try and get in with someone, and they'll keep seeing you then.
Yeah, in various health conversations over the last while, we've been talking about caffeinated drinks and these energy drinks as well. I'm just wondering, are you seeing the result of that? Because they're full of sugar.
Yeah, they're shocking. I see the kids come in and the cans are huge. These cans are, I don't even know what they are. They're monster.
Yeah.
The kind of funny designs in the can, but they come in, they see them walking around going to school in the morning with the big can. Yeah, it's terrible. And it's almost an addictive because it gets used to the caffeine or the sugar of it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get down off that or get away from it, you know.
Yeah,
to get used to it. And also expensive.
And since you began practicing, are you seeing a deterioration in dental health?
I'm not sure. It's very hard for me to judge that. I'd be only. Let me see. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I couldn't answer that for you, frankly, now and tell you. Possibly. I suppose if someone was seen in the HSC quicker, like as a child, a problem would be fixed quicker. And then if they get to you and the hole has got much bigger, it can lead to more problems. You could end up having a root canal extraction in a young child that could have been a very small filling if they were beforehand.
Yeah. Would you have to evaluate where you are in terms of staying with the scheme?
Oh, I might not think of it, to be honest with you. I'm lucky enough with Hurless. There are 2 other practices there in the HSC still.
or the medal card, like if they were to leave, it would put awful pressure on you. I don't know. It's not something I think about, to be honest with you. I just keep going.
All right.
But maybe in time, I don't know.
All right. Aidan, thanks for your time this morning. Thank you.
Fran.
Good morning to you. You too.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye to you now. It's dentist Aidan Burke there from thurlesdentist.ie. News and information's coming up.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now, stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Thanks, Pat. Welcome back to the second hour of Tip Today. 1800 938 007 if you want to speak to Leanne. It's a free phone number. We'll be speaking about gardening in this hour as well. Ulton will join us. So if you have a gardening query, will you log that with us now, please, on text or WhatsApp? That's 083 311 3311. Now, I'd like to be joined by Deputy Michael Lowry. Good morning to you, Michael.
Good morning, Fran.
And good to talk to you. Happy New Year to you as well, by the way, if it's not too late to say that.
You and your listeners.
In December, Michael, you announced that multi-million funding for the Garda Training College in Templemore, saying that the investment provides certainty for the college. On this programme on Friday last, Alan Kelly said that while welcoming the investment, he said the government still hasn't ruled out creating a new training facility outside of Templemore. What's your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, to put this in perspective, Fran, before the last and during the last general election, the future of Templemore Garda Training College came into question, and that arose because of the programme for governments that were put forward. Subsequent to that, we had the election, and then we had negotiations for the formation of a government. I was part of those formation talks and sat in the room with the Fianna Fáil representatives and the Fine Gael representatives. And obviously, during those discussions, I raised the future of Templemore Training College. And arising from that, a commitment was made in the programme for government that the government would continue to support and expand the Garda Training College in Templemore as the main and primary Garda Training College, and that there would be investment in it to develop it and expand it. So that is the commitment in the programme for government. During those wide-ranging discussions that we had on the future of Templemore, so I was satisfied that the future of Templemore was secure. And during those discussions, the case was strongly made that there was a need for a tertiary system that could play a role in the delivery of Garda training. I understood that to be that they were looking at technological institutes that would be able to deliver online courses, and in particular, that as an example, they gave the need for refresher courses for current Gardaí, because the nature of policing is changing rapidly, laws are changing, the numbers of the force that need to be educated is increasing, particularly educated on new initiatives and new developments. So effectively then, this committee has been established under the chairmanship of the former General Secretary of the Department of Further and Higher Education, Jim Breslin. He's chairing that group. A programme of work is being developed at the moment by the Secretariat to the group from the Department of Justice, and membership of that group is being finalised. Now, they have to come up with plans for, the expansion and development of Templemore, for the recruitment of 5,000 Gardaí. They have to look at where the investment is required in terms of the Garda requirements. And there was a follow-on from that then was that we recently had the national framework announced and then the budget announced for each department. So this government has provided the Department of Justice with the biggest budget in its history the biggest investment it has ever had in technology, in transport, in equipment, and in updated facilities and modernising buildings. So there's a huge investment there, and I'm satisfied that Templemore and the training college in Templemore is secure into the future. The training college in Templemore is obviously the heartbeat, is the lifeblood of Templemore, and is central to the economic activity in the town. And I'm very firmly committed to supporting its future. And I also have to say and recognise that both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, with myself, are also determined that Templemore will remain as it is.
Yeah, and part of that working group that you made reference to there, Michael, that's about to be established, and I think a report possibly in July, is part of their job not to look at the case of a second college?
Well, when they say a second college, they're looking at, I spoke with the Minister for Justice yesterday, and first of all, let me say that this group is established, and that group has to report back to the Minister and to the government, and ultimately any decisions will be taken by government. But my understanding of it is that they'll be looking at technical institutes to see how they can play a role in online courses and training or retraining or updating existing members of the force on changes to law and changes to procedures and practices. So I'm not concerned that the influence and role of Templemore is going to be diluted in any way.
Right, and would that be a red line issue for you if there was any notion of a second college, as opposed to just maybe modules or the like?
No, I would listen, Fran, it became an issue in the formation talks, but I'm absolutely satisfied that partners in government, I'm part of the regional and independent group, I had a particular interest in Templemore and I put it on the agenda. And if you read the programme for government, there's a very specific commitment to develop and expand Templemore, and that Templemore will remain the primary and training centre for all recruitment now and into the future. And I'm satisfied that both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are committed to that in government. And obviously I will be overseeing that. I will have an input into that, and I will be safeguarding and protecting the best interests of Templemore Garda Training College. And I have to say that I'm not getting any sense from anybody in any of the other political parties. The only one that has raised this as a particular issue is Alan Kelly. The last time Alan made a furore about Templemore was when he enthusiastically called for the Garda College to be brought before the Public Accounts Committee. And that process, a short number of years ago, did a lot of damage to the college and undermined the college management. And if you recall, he was on your programme on numerous occasions, and there was a big number of inquiries, and the inquiry found that there was breaches of financial standards in public office legislation, that monies were misappropriated into various internal accounts. But the important thing was that there was no embezzlement, as was suggested at the time. There was no fraud, as was suggested at the time. And there was no Garda benefited financially. And there was no charges after the Office of Public, there was no charges after the DPP reviewed the report of the inquiry. And the only thing that really happened on the ground was that a number of local businesses lost contracts to supply goods and services to the college. And happily, those suppliers have been restored. We worked hard over the last number of years to ensure that that was rectified. And thankfully, we now have a situation where, for instance, milk, which was supplied for years from Monaghan dairies, is now being supplied by Turles Co-op, and there are 4 other local suppliers were successful in having their contracts renewed. So Templemore has always been at the top of my agenda. I understand the influence, the importance of it, not just to Templemore town, but to the whole of the region. For instance, when there's a passing out parade in Templemore, which is a regular occurrence nowadays, you have Turles is busy with restaurants, shops, or what have you, right across into Cashel, Nina. The whole Tipperary benefits from it. So it's a major part of infrastructure, and I am totally committed, and the government are committed to maintaining it, to maintaining its status, to develop it. I'm also can say that to you, Fran, this morning, that there's a lot happening. There's a lot of work going on at the moment. There's a lot of engagement between the college authorities, between the Garda authorities, the Department of Justice and the Office of Public Works. We're looking at several ways to alleviate the congestion that's there. For example, there's huge issues in relation to car parking. There's huge issues in relation to capacity. So the idea is that a number of suggestions have been put forward. A number of practical proposals are on the table. A number of properties in the outlying areas are being looked at. And every effort is going to be made now to develop and expand the college as quickly as possible. Because the reality is we have to do it because money is provided to recruit at least 5,000 new Garda recruits. And additional Garda staff over the next 5 years. So they all have to be trained and catered for, and we obviously intend and need to do that in Templemore.
Can I ask you about Mercosur as well? As you know, thousands of people attended that protest in Athlone on Saturday, last week on Saturday. On Friday, the European Union states approved the agreement. Ireland voted against eventually. The next stage, of course, the European Parliament vote, Michael. But how much influence came on the government from your independence? Because it's kind of clear that Micheál Martin changed his mind in recent weeks.
Well, from the outset of the formation of government, together with my regional and independent colleagues, we've been very strong in our opposition to the Mercosur trade deal, and we insisted on it being included in our opposition to Mercosur being included in the programme for government. And on your programme, on several statements that I issued, and when I spoke in the Dáil before Christmas, I consistently stated that Mercosur was a bad deal for the beef industry and would have negative impacts on the industry, which is vital for our economy. And it would also, and I was very conscious of this because no one actually mentioned it, it would also have an impact on our meat processing factories. And we have them in Neenah, we have them in Cahir, we have them in Roscrea, and there's thousands of people employed in those factories. So our regional independent group, we had a sequence of meetings over a number of months. And during those meetings, we communicated to the Taoiseach and the Taoiseach our strong view that the government should vote against Mercosur and its implications. I was also in regular contact with the president of the IFA, with other farming organisations, and I was briefed extensively by the beef processing industry. And I was pleased that our determination and the willingness of our colleagues in government, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, led to a situation where a decision was taken by the government to vote against this trade deal. So it was a government decision. It was in the programme for government. We followed the programme for government. There's no point in having a programme for government like I've just discussed there with Templemore. I had that included in the programme for government, and the programme for government is the Bible for going forward.
But I'm sure you heard Micheál Martin speak from China though, and it did seem that he hadn't made up his mind at that point. Well, look, I say as well, Fran, that we have to recognise that we also there was two key issues, and I spoke at an IFA gathering in Kilkenny before this came, and I said the two critical issues for farmers in this current year were, first of all, the nitrates directive, and the government and Martin Hayden, the Minister for Agriculture, and together with the government negotiated a nitrates directive, a 3-year derogation, and that was hugely important, and it was a lifeline for the dairy farmers. Now, at that particular time, I spoke in the Dáil, and I was addressing the Taoiseach, and the Taoiseach was answering my questions, and I said to him that there could be no question of a trade-off between the nitrates directive and the Mercosur deal. And that was our position, and we maintained that position right through. But that derogation deal, that's for 3 years, and because we're not the good boys of Europe on this now, Michael, will that not be looked at negatively going forward, do you think? Well, look, first of all, the nitrates directive is now agreed, so that's not going to be revisited. But only for 3 years, isn't it? Only for 3 years, yeah. But 3 years is was reckoned by all the organisations, farmers' organisations, was a breathing space that was required. That was the time. Initially, there was 18 months proposed, and it was extended to 3 years.
So that was effectively a very good deal. But we'd always been clear that European Union and trade agreements, that they must, while trade agreements are important, they must defend the most vulnerable sectors. And in this case, our farmers' livelihoods could not be undermined through weak or ineffective environmental standards in all the South American countries, and that's effectively what was going to happen.
And the opposing argument then, I'd love your view on that, because the bigger picture is that if this deal goes through, and it looks like it probably will, in fact, we're promised gains in, I don't know, dairy, pharmaceutical, machinery, manufacturing, drinks, all of these other opportunities outside of beef.
Yes, well, beef is a hugely important part of our economy, and obviously the backbone of beef and dairy are the backbone of our agricultural industry. We are, a rural, predominantly based community, and we depend on agriculture and the agri-sector for the support, particularly in rural communities, for financial support. So they're very important, and it was very important that we stood up for farmers. It's very important that we recognise the contribution that the agricultural industry is making to our economy, and this agreement would have negative effects. Now, in fairness to France and Italy, through their negotiations, they have managed to put in pretty strong safeguards. So I think by Ireland holding out, we have got safeguards that will protect Ireland to a certain extent. Obviously now it goes to the members of Parliament. They have to vote on it. As you said there at the outset, I think it's unlikely that they will overturn the decision of the Council. But we just have to get on with it now and make the best of it, and ensure that the protections that are in place and the safeguards that are in place will be observed, that they will be managed, that they will be supervised. And then we look at the other sectors where we can take advantage of the deal that's on offer.
Can I ask you about what's happening with An Post? Because I know the postmasters across the county expressed concerns to you about the viability of the whole network. Now we're hearing about some support, at least, for the post offices. What's the latest on that?
Well, yeah, the latest on that is yesterday the Cabinet agreed a 15 million investment in An Post, 15 million per annum. And the government is clearly committed to sustaining An Post and the post office network, because it's a key component of the economy and the social infrastructure throughout the country. Up to this year, an amount of 10 million annum was provided. Between 2023 and 2025. There was a fixed term agreement of 10 million. That has been increased now to 10 million per annum. And An Post will disperse that funding across the post office network, with all the contractor post offices benefiting from it. So, that funding is there to support and sustain our national network, in line with the commitment again for the programme for government. And I don't have to tell you, Fran, you've had several people on. Post offices are the heart of our towns and villages across Tipperary and the country, and they do provide essential services. They provide social connection, and they provide local employment. So this additional investment recognises the importance of maintaining the network at a sufficient scale, ensuring continued access to services of real social value, especially for older people and those that are living in rural communities. So that government decision yesterday morning of the additional 15 million reassures postmasters that post offices remain and will remain a priority for the government during the lifetime of this government. And we also saw yesterday where we had a huge increase in the price of stamp, and that put sharply into focus the problems that An Post are facing, because what you have is right across Europe now, you're seeing that the volumes that are being posted are down by 10 to 15%. The same is happening with inbound deliveries, and the costs are increasing. Now, the real kernel here is that An Post, they have a universal service obligation, which means that it must give a mail service to every household in the country on every working day. So irrespective of the volume of mail that they have to provide the service. And in providing that service for a small quantity of mail and a decreasing quantity of mail, people are, increasingly because of the advances in technology, are not using the mail system. So I think we're going to have to look at that from a national perspective.
But the parcel aspect of their business is going through the roof, Michael.
It is. And on Post, I have to be complimented, because on Post, I recall probably 15 years ago, they weren't involved in that business. They became involved in it because they're now a commercial state organisation. They became involved. They've expanded their network. They've expanded their delivery service. They're doing exceptionally well in regard to that. They're also involved in the banking and financial sector. So On Post has a good future, but it does need support, and it needs time to restructure itself properly and to take advantages of the opportunities that are there. And that's why the government have given them this 15 million every year now to ensure that they're stabilised and that they can work their way forward as a commercial entity.
Can I ask you to jog your memory for me? Because on yesterday's programme we spoke to Eddie Bulfin, who I'm sure you know, and we discussed the closure of Thurles Sugar Factory in 1989. But I was looking through some of the Dáil records, and you made many contributions over those years, from about 86 up to 89. When you look back at that and the loss of the sugar factory, what are your thoughts, Michael?
Well, actually, I hadn't, but now that you've asked me, I suppose my instant reaction would be one of sadness. It was a traumatic experience for everyone that was involved. We used to refer to Thurles Sugar Factory as the factory. Once you said the factory, you knew immediately where it was. And like when you talk about Eddie and his colleagues, there were so many families from Thurles area engaged with the factory, a livelihood out of the factory, so many families raised from the rewards of the factory, so many farming families dependent on it as a crop, and so many small farmers dependent on it for part-time work. The factory was, it was phenomenally successful. It was a great shame that it was ever closed. It was one of the political conundrums that I could never really resolve as to why the government took the decision to close the factory.
And Fianna Fáil were in power. We had two ministers, didn't we, in North Tipperary at that point?
We had two ministers at that time, and I think that was the debate. But when you talk about the politics of it, the politics I could never figure out, in the sense that I don't want to be critical, but look, obviously an ultimatum was given from the then Taoiseach, Charlie Haughey. The ministers didn't stand up to him. He got his way. He effectively determined that the factory would close in consultation with the Irish Sugar at the time. And it was a baffling decision, to say the least of it. But the incredible thing about it, like the factory closed, I think we had a general election, Fran, approximately a year later, and the Fianna Fáil vote in the constituency went up. That was one of my memories of it. I said, how could that happen? But it actually did happen. But look, the factory itself was a massive loss to the economy. I mean, it was the central part of the economy. Obviously, it was labour intensive, so you had a big employment content there. And as I said, the benefits and the fruits of the activities in the factory spread right across the community, particularly into the agricultural sector, and particularly into, all the shops closed. The amount of money that was in circulation at that time from the factory was incredible. And the amount of, we had so many talented people working in the factory, people with skill levels that were extraordinary. And in fairness, a lot of those skill levels have been passed on to another generation, and some of them are still actually actively involved in our community and in groups around the county. So it was a great loss. It was a great shame. It was a great pity that it happened. Obviously, there were different times. I didn't realise it was that length ago, but it is, what you said, 36 years ago?
Yeah, 36 years ago. Yeah, and of course the discussion on it started about 86, and then of course in 89 there was the closure. But just for your own information, when we brought it up, the amount of people that made contact with us and all sharing memories of the campaign and all of that sort of thing as well.
Yes.
Incredible.
Yes,
Michael,
the campaign was. I mean, that's what I said. Like when the campaign started, people came from all parts of the county on bicycles and cars and what have you. Yeah. They worked the long shifts. They were paid handsomely. They spent their money in the local areas. It was the sugar factory in Thurles was more just than a factory. It was the work environment was excellent. There was a great collegiality there. Great friends were made. And Eddie, I'm sure, filled you in and all that. He would have been part and parcel of the whole thing at the time.
Michael, thanks for your time this morning. Thank you. Good morning to you. It's Deputy Michael Lowry speaking to us there. 1800 938 007.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckon. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckon. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Now, Silvermines-based farmer Maurice Leamy was in touch with us this week to talk to us about pesticides, where flowers are concerned. He joins me now. Maurice, good morning to you. I wondered if you can hear me okay, Maurice?
I can hear you, Fran. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you fine, Maurice. Thank you. Will you give me some background on this? You're concerned about the pesticides that are used where flowers are concerned and maybe the fallout from that on florists.
Well, not only on florists and flowers, Fran, but in the wider, in the food industry as well. But yeah, it came, I was reading an article on The Guardian, not on the Nina one now, but in the one in England.
Yes.
And it was where a case where, for the first time ever, it has been recognised that a child had died as a direct result of her being in contact with pesticides. And how it happened was, while her mother worked, she ran a kind of a florist in France. And as the child died as an 11-year-old creator, but during the pregnancy, her mother's pregnancy, the child would have been exposed to high levels of pesticides in flowers, because of course there's no kind of limit on the level of pesticides. Whatever about food, there's no limit on the levels of pesticides in flowers and what flowers have to cope with and deal with and stuff. So this was for a landmark case. It has been recognised that her death was a direct result of being exposed to chemicals from flowers while her mum was expecting her. And, you know, that, as I say, that brings a larger question. Last June, Fran, I contacted all the local councillors in North Tipperary requesting that they would propose a ban of glyphosate in Tipperary County Council region. And in fairness to them, all of them were 100% behind it. But unfortunately, the Director of Services decided that economics was more important than the welfare of people in the county. Because glyphosate is being used as a form of weed control in playgrounds and in other areas, public areas in the county. Can you imagine that, Fran? Glyphosate, and we all know the issues now around glyphosate, and the law cases and all the rest of it. And a funny thing has happened there lately, and actually, in fact, in relation to glyphosate, there has been a major retraction from one of the study papers. It was a foundation paper that they produced over 25 years ago, and the medical journal now has retracted because apparently now it has come to light that the scientists weren't independent at all that were involved in the paper. They were actually working for Monsanto, and all the data was compiled by Monsanto scientists. So we'll say chemicals and pesticides, Fran. 1 in 2 of us is going to, this is the latest HSE information, 1 in 2 of us is going to experience cancer in our lives during our lifetime, okay?
Yes.
Almost 90% of that is environmental, is a result of environmental.
And is that from, are the HSE saying that?
Yes. So what that means is what we're eating, what we're exposed to, basically. Around 10% is genetic. 5 to 10% is genetic. So chemicals and pesticides, Fran, not only in relation to that child that died in France, she'd been exposed to it, but every day, Fran, in what we're eating. Like, I can give you an example. They call it the dirty dozen fruits.
Yes.
That will have the highest amount of pesticides and chemicals in them. And I'll tell you one thing, to frighten the life in you, and you'll start thinking twice now, friend, when you go into the supermarket the next time. But strawberries, grapes, peaches, pears, nectarines, apples, cherries, blueberries, green beans and peppers, they have the highest amount of pesticide levels in them. And different amount of pesticides.
And why is that? Is that for longevity, for them to last longer on the shelves?
Yeah, that they won't rot and they last longer.
And they can travel, needless to say, as well, from whatever part of the world.
Export and all the rest of it, and transportation and all the rest of it. And funny thing is, we talked about Mercosur there for the last couple of weeks, Fran, and in relation to the beef that's coming in. But there's a sort of a hypocrisy there, because almost, we produce, for animal feedstuffs in this country, Fran, we produce something like 2 million tonnes, and we require an extra 4 million tonnes. So nearly most of that 4 million tonnes is coming from South America. It would be genetically modified, which there's a big issue about anyway, because of the over-reliance of pesticides on that genetically modified food. But also the amount of pesticides and herbicides that are being used in this, and like the likes of maize, soya, it's huge, Fran. Thousands.
Let me just take you back. Let me take you back there now. Are you saying that we're importing the feed? Is that what you're saying to me?
We're importing animal feed into this country
from South America.
Fran. From South America, Fran. That type of feed cannot be cultivated in Europe. There's a law against it. GM modified food is not allowed to be cultivated in Europe, but it can be imported into Europe. So there's a sort of a hypocrisy, Fran, where we have an issue now with beef coming into Europe, but we're quite happy to import all the feedstuffs from South America. For the Irish tillage farmer, Fran, he's been the poor relation in agriculture in Ireland for the last 30 years. He's been dealing with Mercosur for the last 30 years. And to be fair to him, to be fair to the tillage sector in Ireland and to the grain growers, they've been so heavily regulated in relation to what sprays they can use and herbicides, and the department will be on top of them. I know of one case in Wexford last year. Okay,
don't mention specific people.
I won't mention names, or you know me, friend. I'm always careful what I say. Mm-hmm. But a farmer, don't go. But a farmer in Wexford, he grew a crop of corn, and because he used a herbicide that was actually banned a couple of years ago, the department got to know about it, and he was told he was not harvested. So, but at the same time,
we import
that crop grown in South America would be imported. Right. It's a ridiculous situation, Fran.
So do you know all we've heard about particularly over the last few weeks, then, where Mercosur is concerned, that the beef we produce here is top quality, premium quality, all of that sort of thing. What are you saying to me about that? If the animals are fed on this feed, then?
Well, what I'm saying to you is this, Fran. There's no way we would be allowed in Ireland, the tillage sector in Ireland, would be allowed to produce feedstuff with the standard that they are in South America, and we'll be allowed to produce it in Ireland, and that it will be allowed to be fed to Irish livestock. That's what I'm saying, quite clearly, Fran. And that's there for everyone to see. They say, it's tested and all the rest of it. If something isn't allowed to be cultivated in Europe because there's an issue, Fran, how can it be right that it can be imported into Ireland and fed to Irish livestock?
And what is the result? What is the result, Maurice, of feeding that to Irish livestock then?
Well, sure, who knows, Fran? Who knows? If it's not allowed for us to be using all those herbicides and genetically modified feedstuffs to be grown in Ireland, how is it okay for it to be imported into Ireland and fed to Irish livestock? As I said, Fran, the Irish tillage sector. You talked to a gentleman yesterday from Thurles, Eddie.
Yes.
He talked about the sugar beet industry.
Yeah.
If we still had a sugar beet industry in Ireland, I'm not saying we'd be self-sufficient in animal feedstuff, but we'd be a hell of a long way there. The byproduct from sugar beet, Fran, was fantastic in relation to feeding cattle. You know, the pulp, the beet pulp, the molasses. We wouldn't be half as reliant on importing feedstuff in for our livestock. Not only that, but it was a fantastic rotational crop. Fantastic rotational crop. And by that I mean, you know, every year you want to, or every so often you want to rotate a different crop in a field so you don't deplete the field of its natural nutrients. Beet was a fantastic crop. Do you know, back in the famine time, Fran, we produced over 650,000 hectares of oats. Now it is minuscule what we're producing here.
Yeah, because we can import it. We import it so much cheaper, of course.
We import it for little or nothing.
Yeah.
Well, I won't say little or nothing, but we just don't make it economically viable for the tillage man in this country. And if you consider, Fran, that the tillage man and the tillage industry as a whole is almost carbon neutral in relation to its CO2 footprint. I know in production of oats, Fran, once the corn will be ploughed back in, there's no CO2 footprint from the crop.
Well, of course, if we were to do it here, but when we import it, there's a carbon footprint, a big time on it, in fact.
Huge. 780,000 tonnes coming into port in Cork, I think, in the last year. And all that thing getting lorried all around the country to feed to the feed stations, you know.
Yeah, and can I take you back to the original part of our conversation, which was about flowers and the pesticides there, and you say there's no upper limit on that. Is that because it's not a food? Is that it?
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
so
basically.
So we don't consume it. But you're still telling me that because of the residue levels, there could still be an issue with whatever pesticides are used on these flowers. Hugely. Why,
Like I said,
why is this all gone under the radar? I mean, I
don't know. I think people will just have to become more aware, Fran. Like I say, in relation to chemicals, and I see now there lately, the EU have decided to ban any form of water supply that's containing these PFAs, these forever chemicals that take over 1,000 years to leave the natural world. We're slowly destroying not only ourselves, Fran, but our planet with chemicals, with poisons. I think we'll have to go back, Fran. We'll have to go back to where we produced our, you can remember when you were young, Fran, and when I was young, my father always, produced, we had our own little garden, we produced carrots,
I remember well.
Cabbage and spuds, and I think that's what we need to get back to, Fran, But, you see it in the food and you taste it in the food. I think people need to start becoming more serious about what they're putting into their body. As I say, isn't it frightening, Fran, to think? And we all know, even in our own parish here, we all know people that have died in the last 12 months, young people. And Jesus, Mary and Joseph, Fran, it is frightening. And when you consider, Fran, is this because of a practice that we're doing daily, be it agriculture or be it whatever?
Yeah.
It's something that I think that the general public need to wake up to, Fran. And maybe, you know, as I say, like, I suppose at this stage everyone knows I'm organic anyway, but at this stage I think people need to really consider, and I know there's a cost of living crisis, and I know all that, but maybe other than having to purchase stuff, maybe start, you know, it doesn't take an awful lot, Fran, to put a little bit of a garden out in the back and start cultivating and producing your own food, and even for children to be educated. I mean, you heard me on last September going on about the free foods. I think that's a scandalous situation.
You were talking about waste, I think, at that point as well.
Waste. Complete waste. Tons upon tons every day.
Can I ask you, Maurice, how organic can you actually be if we're poisoning the water and the land?
Well, this is it. This is it, Fran. And there needs to be a massive rethink, Fran. There has a meanness, Fran. And I know I'm going to get shot and the legs cut from under me, but I don't give a you know what. But there has a meanness, Fran, entered Irish agriculture in the last few decades. Specifically,
what do you mean by that now?
Fran.
A meanness. What do you mean by that?
A meanness, Fran. A meanness where it's money at all counts. I put it like this to you, Fran. In the southeast, Fran, of Ireland, the highest level of nitrates in the water can be found. And there's a direct correlation now between that and the incidence of certain types of cancer in the southeast. You know, I see even the other day above my own little stream coming down from my farm, I see, you know, there was the wastewater treatment plant. It let off a discharge into my local stream, which is a salmonide river, by the way. And the colour was like grey aluminium coming down.
So where do you stand on where do you stand on this derogation then that's going to go on for the next few years?
Well, I think it's a licence to pollute, Fran, if I'm going to be honest. I think it's a licence to pollute. Yeah, I said it, lads, wondering, is this fella a farmer at all? Well, I am. But there's a way of farming, Fran. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. And, you know, the amount of, you know, when the quotas left Ireland, Fran, and these industries, these dairy farms, I'm not talking about the 100 or 200 cows or whatever. I'm talking about, Fran, where you have cows, where you have 1,500 cows and places like that. Number one, you're going to have welfare issues, Fran. Hugely. You're going to have welfare issues. And I don't give a toss, because I know some fella that worked in one of these places, and the standard of welfare that he's seen the little calves get, especially the male calves, it was just, Jesus, it was just mind-blowing. But where I stand on farming, Fran, I think there needs to be a massive rethink. I think family farm, Fran, as it used to be in Ireland, has gone. The farmers, the big dairy farmers, Fran, the young fellas have no interest now. They'll be bringing in 4 or 5 Pakistanis to run the farms. That's the way it's gone, Fran. Brits are telling me this themselves. And they go into the farms, they know it, they see it. There needs to be a massive rethink, Fran, on where we want to go as a country in the future. You see the GAA, Fran, they can't field a hurling team in certain parts of the country.
Yeah.
The youngsters are leaving. And a lot of that's got to do with what's happening in rural Ireland, Fran. You know?
All right, well, Maurice, you've certainly, I'm looking at my screens here, you have certainly generated a conversation, that's for sure. Sadly, I'm heading forward.
I generally try to do this, but can I, just before I go,
yes,
Fran,
yeah.
I was on live line on Monday in relation to Nunsdun slaughter, and thanks be to God, there's been real clarity on it now. I know you had Dr. Umar on last November.
This is about the halal slaughtering, isn't it? Yeah.
About halal slaughter, and basically everything that he had stated was wrong. And I'd not knowingly, but a bit had come on from UCD, who was a member of Veterinary Ireland, and stated that they're totally against any form of nun-stunning, and even the stunning that Dr. Umar had talked about, where he talked about a certain type of a bolt, which doesn't enter the head. That is not actually, that is totally illegal in EU law, what's been allowed. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank Martin Brown specifically, and I think a fellow called Pat Mullally, because they were on after the last time I was on, and they basically tried to rubbish what I was saying all along. And God forbid that an Irish farmer or an Irish lad would be believed over a Muslim cleric. But I'm just delighted because it gave me an extra emphasis to make sure that I would get the point across. So I went to RT with it then. And now, finally, just before I do go, Fran,
I'm just out of time, Maurice, but yeah, really quickly,
Sean Burke and Silvermine's junior hurlers, all the best on Saturday.
Oh, right.
They're in the county or in the Munster semi-final, so all the best to them.
All
Thanks,
right,
Fran.
thanks, Maurice. Thank you, and good morning to you. That's Maurice Leamy speaking to us there.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long-wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Thanks, Pat, and welcome back to the final hour of Tip Today. 1800 938 007. The text and WhatsApp is 083 311 3311. And of course you can email tiptoday@tipfm.com. Now, huge amount of correspondence in following that conversation there with Maurice. I'll bring you some of that in just a little while. But something different for you, because Tipperary woman Carmel O'Connor began her career as a secondary school teacher before starting her journey into the world of Tai Chi. She's now helping others to find their own abundance and joy through the Great Way Tai Chi Academy. And she joins me now. Good morning to you, Carmel.
Good morning, Fran. Lovely to talk to you.
And lovely to talk to you as well. I'm absolutely fascinated by Tai Chi, Carmel, and for some reason or other, it's coming up on my phone all the time, all sorts of Tai Chi options. What exactly is it?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's coming up on so many people's phones and on YouTube and everything. So Tai Chi is a form of cultivating your own energy, and that's it's a way of harnessing your own energy yourself. Now, the last speaker, Maurice, was talking about cultivating your food. This is actually cultivating the energy. So really gathering the energy in your body and storing it. And it's very simple. It's this, it seems very simple, of course, very gentle movement that looks like a moving meditation. But you have to be very calm and relaxed. And as you do Tai Chi more, you become more calm, more relaxed, and your body moves in a very gentle way. And like a swan on a lake, the upper part of the body from the waist up is gliding very beautifully along, but the legs of the swan underneath the water are working very hard. And that's what Tai Chi is like. The lower half of your body becomes rooted into the ground. And when you're so strong and so rooted into the ground, you feel energy. So I actually feel energy now coming through my feet. And I think most people are in their heads and they're concerned about so many things. They're so stressed out. They have no idea that there's this energy coming right up through your feet, right up through the body, and making you feel more calm, more relaxed, more balanced. And your thoughts are not so busy and all mixed up, and you're not so stressed.
Good God, Carmel, it sounds exactly what I need. Is this a martial art?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, I'll tell you, originally, of course, Fran, because, you know, centuries ago, like we had in Ireland, with all these little petty kingdoms, and with all the kings fighting against each other to be the High King of Ireland. Well, in China, of course, they had the same. They had all these dynasties.
Yes.
And they had the dynasties fighting each other. And in order to do the fighting, they were attacking other dynasties, and they had to defend themselves. So they found a way of building up their strength so that they were almost, they became very powerful in themselves, because, of course, they didn't have huge weapons like we have these days, but they relied more on the inner strength of the body. And they discovered then that inner strength, when they didn't need to use it for attack and defense anymore, they discovered it was beneficial for all the organs of the body. And what I discovered, Fran, was when doing the Tai Chi myself, because I was, as a teacher, running around in a very demanding environment in a school, very, very busy, I discovered that, you know, we're all so stressed running around that there's this energy that the more I did the Tai Chi, it had to be that I practiced. You know, not like those Tai Chi videos where in 7 minutes, you do 7 minutes a day, and in 3 weeks, nobody will recognize you. You'll be so marvelous and wonderful. You know, it doesn't happen like that. But if you persist, you discover that there is this wonderful energy that you can rely on, and it's actually your own. You don't have to go to any app. You don't have to rely on anything else, and you become much more aware of how actually powerful you are as a person and how much influence you can have on your own health and well-being. And you become very much aware of how you breathe, how you move, and how you interact with other people. And even, you know, how you speak. Everything slows down a bit and you're not rushing anymore. And if we had more people like that in the world, Fran, our world would be transformed.
Well, wouldn't it be fantastic? One of the other things I like about it is that it appears to be, at least, Carmel, that even a couch potato like me could start up this, because it's gentle, isn't it?
Yes. Now, it's very interesting because, you know, Fran, if you're doing all those, you know how people now go to the gym a lot and
Sure.
you're doing this kind of very fast exercise. Well, if you do this gentle movement, you find that you're not exhausted, physically exhausted, and having to recoup your energy, which is very fine and good for young people because they can recoup their energy very quickly. But people, as they tend to move on a little bit in years, it takes them longer. But the secret of the Tai Chi is it's so gentle and it's so effective. Even if you do Tai Chi, if you do it, practice it a little bit, a few times a week, and you reset the energy in your body much, much faster. So it's slow movement. However, your feet are very important. And I have an 87-year-old who comes to my class, and she came because her doctor recommended Tai Chi because she kept falling. And I wondered how she might manage.
Yes.
And I discovered that she had a chair to support her in the beginning, and I wondered how she would do it. And I said, look, you don't know how this works. And it was amazing. After a few times, she didn't need the chair anymore. And she comes back to class because she finds her balance is much better. And your feet are so important. But if you do Tai Chi regularly, what I found anyway, my feet are more, it's like they're more glued into the ground, and I can feel energy. And it's like I feel somebody put batteries into my feet, and I feel that as I'm moving around. So I'm aware of that all the time. I'm not so worried about what's happening, all the awful things that are happening in the world. I'm more concerned about the energy going through my body, and it's so good for your well-being that I feel it's that's why I actually left the classroom altogether to do this full time.
And I'm reading between the lines on the correspondence we have from you. I mean, it seems to me it was life-changing for you, Carmel. Is that overstating it?
No, it's totally not overstating it. And so I found, so what happened, Fran, was one day I was flying along into school and I had to be there for 9 o'clock, and it was a fine frosty morning, like you'll get one of these mornings.
Yeah.
And luckily at that time I was I was in Offaly, and luckily the road I was on was a bog road, and I was going so fast and I was so many things in my head. I had to rush to school, and I toppled over in my car, and I ended up, luckily my car was a write-off, but I was okay. And I said, at that moment, I said, you know what? My life needs to change. It's so chaotic. And then I discovered I was talking to a sister-in-law of mine who informed me about a Chinese teacher that she had come across who did this Tai Chi, and I thought it sounded so strange, I wouldn't be interested. I went to see him at a Mind, Body, Spirit festival. They still take place, these Mind, Body, Spirit festivals. So I went to Dublin to see him. And I thought, he moves slowly, he's very calm, he's very peaceful, and I'm not. And I said, I'm signing up, whatever he's doing, I don't care what it is. I'm doing what he's teaching. And so that's how I started Tai Chi. And from the minute I started, I felt I was so happy because I tried, I spent years running and I tried loads of things, but it didn't have the same effect. But I found this person had tremendous power. It seemed like he had tremendous internal power. And slowly I felt my life totally changed. And I became eventually a much better teacher because that calmness that he had, I then felt it in myself. And I could pass that on to my students. And now through the work that I do now, I'm starting a teacher training course in Cork. And that I'd love if Tipperary people came along as well, because of course I'm from Tip. And I used to teach Tai Chi in Clonmel and Cashel and Cahir and Thurles, and Maria King, who's working with me, is teaching in Tipperary. And I always thought I'd love more Tipperary people to be involved because I so love my own county.
Well, I think it's a lovely idea indeed. So if people want to make contact with you and get in touch, whether they want to maybe teach Tai Chi or indeed just take up Tai Chi, how can they make contact with you, Carmel?
Yes, so they can contact me on the Great Way Tai Chi Academy at gmail.com, or they can contact my website is carmeloconnor.com. So they're probably easy ways to get in contact with me. And perhaps, we might put up my phone number or something on your website.
Sure we will, of course we will. Yes, we'd be delighted. One of our listeners wondering if they can get Tai Chi classes in Tipperary. Did you mention there's a teacher in Tipperary town?
There's Maria King, and she's based, say, Cahir area. And I think from our training course, we're hoping there are plenty in Cork and, say, Carlow. And now we're hoping that people from Tipperary will come to the training course in Cork, as I did, because I lived in Tipperary and I went to Cork to do my training course. And that we'll have more people in Tipperary because the benefit to people in Tipperary, we don't want just good hurlers in Tipperary, Fran. We want good people able to do Tai Chi and really teach Tai Chi in their communities. As I did before, I worked with all kinds of women's groups, the Irish Arthritis Foundation, the Wheelchair Association, people with, I used to go to daycare centres and I did ETB classes. The opportunities are incredible because people are living longer and they need to do something to take good care of their own health, and they won't need to be relying on other people to help them so much in terms of their own health, because they'll feel the benefit of their own energy, which, being stressed out cuts off your energy in the body. But when you feel well, when you have good energy flows and your life gets much better. So that's the transformational effect.
Well, I can get the enthusiasm from your own voice there for this, Carmel. Really good to talk to you. I'm most interested in this, Carmel. I can't wait to find out even more. But thank you for coming on with us today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Fran, and thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Bye-bye to you. Carmel O'Connor there, originally indeed from Tipperary. She has the Great Way Tai Chi Academy now at the moment. If you're interested in that, it's the Great Way Tai Chi Academy, all one word, all lowercase, at gmail.com.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puck On. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
And you're very welcome back to Tip Today. One listener on to say, and this follows on from the conversation a little earlier on with Maurice Leamy, the farmer from Silvermines. Brian says, Fran, this is the feed producers use imported grain, seeds and pulses. They will give preference to cheap South American products rather than paying a fair price for Irish product, yet beef is being sold as grass-fed beef. Producers should not accept these feeds. They're not cheaper to buy, only the producer's supplier profit from this practice, says Brian too. There's a lot coming in where that is concerned as well. Look, I'll tell you what, it is something we will get back to again because there's a lot of interest in that. But right now, let's move on to something else, because 50-year students Paddy Corcoran and Sean Call from Rockwell College in Cashel have had great success at the Stripes Young Scientist Awards last week, when they were awarded first prize in the senior technology category alongside the Educational Research Centre Special Awards. I'm delighted that Paddy and Sean are with me in studio. Good morning to you both.
Hi, Fran.
And many, many congratulations indeed. Paddy, will you tell me about your project? Because it's a little bit over my head now at this point, but will you explain to us what it is about?
Okay, so I presume you understand how TikTok is really addictive.
Sure do.
Okay, so we've taken the same format that makes TikTok addictive with how people scroll, and we've applied it to studying and built an app around it. So how it works is users can upload almost any form of study content. So you can upload pictures of your textbook, put in a YouTube link, or even upload a whole book as a PDF. But whatever you upload, the AI will analyse it, and it will turn it into a scrollable feed of study content. So the exact same way you have a scrollable feed of videos on TikTok or Instagram, you'll get a scrollable feed of questions, flashcards and videos.
So in the same way that I must admit I'm a little obsessed with TikTok, in the same way as we're obsessed with that, we would become almost addicted to the study aspect?
Yeah, because the format and the activity of scrolling is very familiar with you. Like a lot of people nowadays, that resembles being addicted to something. So when you copy that format but apply it to something else, it actually works, because the format is so familiar and so similar that it actually...
It's incredible. Who came up with the idea, first of all?
Well, it was a bit of a joint idea. We were at Sean's house and we were meant to be studying for the junior cert. And then we ended up just doom scrolling on TikTok. And I can't remember who exactly, but we just...
To our older listeners, that means constant scrolling, doesn't it? Yes.
Yeah. I can't remember who exactly it was, but in that moment we just thought, what if we just took the exact same format that makes TikTok really engaging, really addictive, but just applied it to studying to make studying addictive and engaging, because we hate studying and we're addicted to TikTok.
So was that a eureka moment? Was it a case of, wow, this is a great idea?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Sean, that's all fine to have the idea, but then you need the technology and you need all of the innovation.
Exactly,
Where did you go? How did you even begin with that?
Yeah, so I suppose when we got the idea, we originally looked through the App Store and think because we were presuming there's already going to be something there. And I suppose when we found there was nothing there, we kind of thought, oh, well, maybe there's something there we can work on. So it was actually the start of TY. That's when we first started. And I suppose, look, neither of us had ever made an app before. So the question of where do you start was a big one. But it was actually ChatGPT helped us a good bit, because it just knows so much, and we could ask it how do I even upload an app to the App Store? That was a huge problem we faced. But
artificial intelligence played
exactly.
a huge part.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Wow. So that was your go-to, essentially?
Yeah, pretty much, because I suppose, my father would have worked in tech, but he wouldn't have been too familiar with releasing apps on the App Store. So, besides that, there would have been no one that we could have really talked to, except for, obviously, the ChatGPTs and the artificial intelligence.
Now, you're making it sound very simple, but this took a long time, didn't it?
Yeah, we started it in September of 2024. We launched then in January of 2025, and we've just been continuously working on it since.
And when you say working on it, did it evolve?
Yeah, so the first version back in January was astronomically bad. I think both me and Paddy would agree. Yeah. There was so many problems with it and it just looked terrible, but we just wanted to get it out there. Whereas if you compare that version to what we have now, I think there's miles of a difference.
Right. What do you envisage would happen to it, though, in the future? Would schools take it on, go through the curriculum and all the various different modules and make that available in this fashion, if you know what I mean?
So I suppose when we first started making, or kind of planning the app, we thought that we could make it specific for like the Irish Junior Cert, Leaving Cert systems by having the subjects already within the app. But then we kind of thought that kind of shortens the scope of the app, because now you're stuck to just students and just students in Ireland. Whereas the way the app works is people can upload any content that they have. So imagine you have a test coming up on, you could be in South Africa and you have a test coming up on some chapter. You can take a picture of those pages in your chapter and you can make questions that are specific now to your curriculum in South Africa. Or if you're coming from Spain or France or wherever you are in the world, it works with your content. So we probably won't specialise in the kind of Irish system, because we want to have that broad scope where it can be used by anybody, anywhere, in any profession, not even students.
It's absolutely incredible, because I know years ago studying, I mean, one of the big things was to try and sum up large quantities of information into flashcards and into that kind of thing. This will do that to a certain extent, is that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I suppose the idea of kind of like active recall, where you have to, rather than just highlighting and reading the book, where you have to now put it into practice and answer questions, that's proven to be a very effective way of actually remembering the information, and that's what the app plays on.
Paddy, have you put it into operation, real operation?
As in
from a school point of view and making use of this?
No, like we haven't actually released it to any, have a program for schools, but in the future we might look into it. But as Sean was saying before, we did look into it before about making a teachers portal.
Yes.
And then having the teachers, they could like upload all their content and then it would be distributed to all the students in that class. But the bad thing about that is it wasn't monetarily viable. It wouldn't make enough money, because we thought we could charge per person per month, we could only charge per person per year, which is just it wasn't enough to really pursue it and really develop such a complex piece of software that wouldn't actually return that much money.
Okay, so what will you do with this for the future then?
So we are pivoting a small bit now, and I won't release too much information, but it would basically
is this a first for us now today?
Okay. But so, are you familiar with Grinds 360?
No.
Okay, so it's basically like a live Grinds platform.
Okay.
Where they have teachers, like really good teachers that in any subject, but they so it's a Grinds platform. So what we do is we're gonna pivot and create kind of the same platform, but with AI features. So when you watch your live grind, instantly afterwards, then you'll have your study talk feed then of questions and flashcards, so you can instantly quiz yourself on the content just after your grind.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really, really fantastic altogether. The success then at the awards, Sean, did that blow you away to get that kind of recognition?
Yeah, 100%. I suppose going into it, we were kind of hoping to win the kind of Educational Research Award, because, I mean, we've an app here for studying with 200,000 downloads. That is quite a big thing. But to win the actual technology section for senior technology was crazy, because like I remember sitting in our row and you're looking down and there's like two people or two groups with like bionic hands, and there's groups predicting power outages, and there's all sorts of complex software. So to actually come up ahead of them was unexpected completely.
Right. Well, as I say, congratulations to you. It's wonderful. I guess you must have met some pretty amazing people over the few days.
No, we did. We had Philip O'Callaghan from Examcraft Group come up to us as well. I think I'm not sure now is he the CEO of Examcraft Group,
okay.
But we had, and then we also had another guy that was also running an edtech startup called Examinate, and then another guy who was running like a Grinds 360 platform as well, and was also a maths teacher. And we also met him as well. And there's even we got a picture with Patrick Collison as well, the CEO.
Did you
of
indeed?
Stripe.
Right.
Yeah. So like that was a big moment. Like, cause we'd love to be like him,
Yeah. And is that the inspiration then? I mean, is that where you both want to go with your lives after?
Yeah. No, we definitely do want to pursue the startup world anyway.
Yeah.
I'd say like obviously study talk we won't pursue for for our whole life. But probably for the next couple of years, and then Sean wants to go into robotics, and for myself I'm not sure exactly what, but it's definitely going to be in the startup space.
Right. Robotics, Sean?
Yeah, so I suppose I always kind of had an interest in engineering, and I was originally kind of thinking down the lines of aeronautical engineering, but just I suppose over the last year and a half, kind of coding the app and working on my computer, I kind of grew a passion and love for that as well. And so I thought, well, how can I combine my love for kind of writing code and writing software with that engineering perspective? And I think robotics is the perfect mix, because you have to engineer your robot, but now you get to code it and make it move and stuff as well.
I was reading over the past couple of weeks what the Chinese are doing with robotics and how far ahead they are.
Yeah, I remember I saw once they built a whole 100-kilometre motorway, I think, using just robots and no human interaction.
It really is incredible altogether. AI, just many people my age were trying to play catch up. I only realised yesterday, because I had a big long-winded piece of correspondence and I needed it summed up, and I popped it into ChatGPT.
Yeah.
It just perfect what it gave me, exactly what I was looking for. We're playing catch up with it, but you're developing it.
Yes, I suppose we kind of like to think of ourselves as like an AI first company. So a lot of people would be kind of skeptical maybe of using AI, and they say, well, you're kind of, the quality isn't as good, or you need to be doing it yourself as a human rather than just trusting the computer. But I suppose the way we think about it is the AI is a tool that can help you advance so much further. So I think if you're not using AI, then you're just going to end up falling behind. So I think everybody has to embrace AI.
All right, you go along with that, Paddy, yeah?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, even as well, like Sean will always use this example, and I'll never forget it. When the calculator first came out, everyone thought it was cheating, and now AI first came out, everyone thinks it's cheating. Now, maybe it is to an extent. Maybe the calculator is cheating to an extent, but it is just a tool to enhance how well you can do something and how quickly you can do something.
Yeah, and what about all these fears around AI? I'd love this from your perspective, because we did a piece on it a couple of weeks ago, and I mean, a lot of people are very afraid of where this is going and whether it can become autonomous in itself and make its own decisions and all of that, and humanized to some degree. Have you any fears about that, Paddy?
Well, I think the autonomous part, we're almost there. Like even Claude, which is ChatGPT's competitor, they just released a new thing called Co-work, where you can it literally takes over your computer and does stuff for you that any other AI can't do.
It will decide what needs to be done and do it.
No, like you can give it a task, like for example, like organize all the files on my computer, and it actually can do it. Like no other AI right now can actually do that. But like, as in, for the fact that it's going to take over the world, I think that there's so much movies and so many like things that are fearing about this and like reporting about this, that I think they surely have something in place that they can just switch a button and turn it off. Like if something goes wrong, I think there will be something that can just
some safeguards.
Yeah, because I think even for like all the smart people in the world, and like the Americans and the Chinese, I think they wouldn't be that daft nearly to not have
I don't know. I mean, look at the atomic bomb, for example. But have you fears, Sean? Any fears?
I suppose as much as a person would, but I think at the same time, I don't think you should slow down. I don't think we should just ban AI because of a future fear. I think it should be somewhat regulated so that you don't have these companies just developing AI that'll just take over the whole world. But at the same time, I think the likelihood of AI taking over the whole world is quite low, because I suppose they need power, and we can just turn off the power plants. That's how I see it anyway.
It's I'm fascinated by it, though. Some of these figures emerged over the last few days as well, in terms of the amount of people now who have stopped using Google, for example. It seems to be all about AI.
Yeah, well, even Google as well, when you search up something, it comes up with the AI overview at the very top.
So it's all buying into each other. What about college and Rockwell? What has it meant to you, Paddy?
Rockwell's actually been a great help. Like I think, like I even as well, like Rockwell's such a good school because everyone is just so close. Because like, now it sounds mad, you're in school for 12 hours a day together, but like everyone is just so close. I think that just is, even as well, like Sean and I just got so close as well from being in school so long and so much together, that it's just it is a great benefit to make friends and just like to even find business partners as well,
Yeah, and what about Rockwell for you, Sean? Has it been?
I agree. I think because the fact that they were there for so long, it kind of facilitates us to do these projects much more. Because I suppose you have time after school to do it, and if you need the teachers are there and they're great and they're always happy to help you. So I think Rockwell is great.
And I'd like to give a great shout out to Helen Murray as well, our science teacher. She's
she's a dancer, is she?
Yes, she is. She's big into her great dancer, actually.
So hello, Helen. I look forward to seeing you.
I think she's listening right now as well.
Well, I hope she is. Hello to Helen out there. What else are you interested in, by the way? Are you both nerds and not interested in anything else, or are you into sport and all of that kind of thing?
Well, personally, I'm big into the gym as well.
Are you?
I wouldn't be very strong now, but I'm still big into it. And then obviously AI as well. Like AI and fitness are like my two big
Very
things
good,
as well.
yeah. What about you, Sean? Are you into the sport?
I used to be big into the sport, only up until just, I suppose, near enough the start of 5th year, when I've kind of like left a lot of them to focus more on the kind of different competitions and stuff we're doing in school, just to kind of bulk up the CV.
Right, it's great. Well, many congratulations. I presume the school gave you a great welcome. You're back and all of that. Did they give you a great welcome when you returned?
Yeah, we got a nice little bottle of Lucasade and a Mars bar as well.
That was great.
Oh, the glamour of it all, isn't that fantastic? All right, well done, and thanks very much indeed for coming in to us
Cheers,
today.
thanks,
Thank
Fran.
you both. That's Paddy Corcoran and Sean Call. They're 5th-year students from Rockwell College. We'll take a break. We're back with more in just a tad.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tip Today on 1800 938 007.
Now, Ed was in touch with us recently about the car park at Tipperary University Hospital Clonmel, and he joins me now. Ed, good morning to you.
Good morning, Fran.
And good to talk to you today. Will you tell me about your experience there? Because I know it left you kind of astounded, Ed.
Well, I don't visit the place too often, but I just happened to have to go in there last Monday for a simple procedure. Up the hill, up to the top of the hill, on the right-hand side of the car park, right?
Yeah.
I'm reliably informed that when you go into the car park, you have 20 minutes free, okay?
Yes.
And drive around that car park in and out here and there looking for a suitable space, which is not there, right? It's overcrowded big time. They're parked up on the grass, up on the curbs. But eventually, anyway, when I did find a space that, I was amazed it was actually left there. But when I backed into it, I discovered I couldn't get out of my car. There's tight, you know.
Yeah,
so that's from the time you're going through the barrier there, your time is counting down. Your 20 minutes is counting down from there on, right? And I'm firmly believe that Linford Christie wouldn't get out of that car park and into the hospital and back again in 20 minutes. Okay?
Okay.
You know, that's the way it is. In any case, I found, eventually I got a space. I felt okay going into it because normally you have wheelchair spaces that I don't ever use.
Yes.
But there's age-friendly is a new one.
Okay.
There are age-friendly spaces as well. 4 or 5 that were vacant. So I said, right, at this stage, I feel that I can avail of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, make long story short, I made my way into the main body of the thing. Probably 7 or 8 minutes passed by, and I got my procedure dealt with, and I left. I got back to the car park to get out, and there's about 30. It's €4 from 0 to 30 minutes, right? €4. It's about 35 or 6 minutes were gone at that stage, and there was no way you're going to get out. So the 20 minutes was well gone. So you go over then and try and work your way into this machine, put your car registration number and to gobble up your €4, whatever you're going to. It's a waste of time telling anybody that there's a 20-minute free space in the car park, because it will never work out.
Right, because you're going to spend your time, as you say, prancing around the car park trying to find a space.
Exactly. Now, bearing in mind as well, that was last Monday, and visiting was prohibited in the hospital. So I can't imagine what it would have been like had there been visitors there.
Yeah, you touch on something else as well that really drives me nuts, is the width of these car parking spaces, Ed. There's little or no room to get out. They're all so tight. And it's not just Clonmel Hospital. It seems to be everywhere at the moment.
Well, you'd be okay if you drove into the hospital, into the car park, and you happen to have a little smart car or something like that, like a T car in the middle of it. But what I drive is reasonably big. I could get out of my car, eventually I'd get out if I parked close enough to the car on my left-hand side. But then the driver of that car couldn't get into this car to come back.
Of course, but even if you have a very mild disability, if you have a bit of arthritis or something, it's very hard to get out of your car in a tight space like that.
It's practically impossible. But I felt good, age-friendly. I said, I park here. I kind of fit the bill here and that's it. But what I can't understand, €4 then for 7 or 8 minutes inside the hospital, and I can't understand why they couldn't. They can do it elsewhere. They can give you some sort of little card or document that you can actually use coming out to get out the fact that you're a patient. I don't have any problem with drivers hanging about, because if you drive in with a patient in there, you can drop them off, and you have the option then of going either to a car park or get a hell out of there and come back and whenever you're needed.
Yes.
You know, but when I couldn't park the car below the hurl field and walk up, like, it's just not. And also, the car park at the bottom of the hill as you come out, that seems to be designated for a particular individuals as well. Albeit, I don't actually the word I use there or you know, but there's a big sign up there.
Right. Okay. So you. Right, so you don't have an awful lot of choice as what you're saying to me. What should happen, Ed, do you think?
Well, I like I said, if somebody is driving a vehicle and dropping off a patient, that's fine. Okay, they can go over to the main front door. Because
But for people like yourself, what would make it easier, more practical?
I wish I knew. Well, I'm just cribbing about the €4 for half an hour, less than half an hour, like, you know. If as a patient, not so, if you're in there as a patient or outpatient or whatever you are, like, that you should get something coming out that you could use to get out of the car park, without paying. I'm not just for people that were in a position to, like me, I should win, like, and deal with the matter and get back out again. I think it charged £4 out, you know, out of breath after getting back to the car park, you know. But there should be some sort of some little docker that you can actually slip into the machine.
Yes,
and get out.
that would get you out. All right, Ed, thanks for that. We'll put it out there and we'll see what people think about that and what indeed their experiences have been about trying to park, not just in Clonmel University Hospital, but wherever else, if you want to share that with us. 083 311 3311, and we'd be glad to hear from you on that. Let's have a little piece from Down Your Way, because Eamon was in Upper Church this week, and what a place to be. The celebrations were absolutely tremendous indeed. So this week's Down Your Way from Upper Church. We'll give you a little taste of that right now.
So hi folks, hello once again, and you're very welcome along to this week's edition of Down Your Way. What a special edition. We're on our way in to walking in through Upper Church Village. Packy Purcell is carrying one of the main flags.
Hello, Eamon.
Packy,
Eamon, you're very welcome to the All Ireland Village winners.
It is absolutely unreal. What a feeling for the community.
The euphoria is unbelievable. The euphoria Irish fans, Upper Church fans feel is unbelievable.
It is absolutely class, isn't it?
It is beyond all our expectations to be All Ireland champions.
Isn't it though?
Yeah. We're wholesome yesterday. I'm sorry I made the talk that well.
We're calling a massive crowd here in the village. It's 12 o'clock on Sunday.
Yeah, and it was here till 3 o'clock on Sunday morning as well. And we literally big fun for in there last night. Oh, it's unbelievable, Eamon. Yeah. When you put your trust in hurling, when you put your trust in hurling, it pays off.
The team is right behind us. There are 3 or 4 goals. Have to imagine what's going on.
To end it.
Isn't it all?
It's an absolute.
Did you ever think you'd see it?
I never thought these, no.
Did you ever think you'd see something like this?
And I've been at 1,000 matches.
Yeah.
It's the best I ever came across.
Yeah.
And well done. Hey!
There's a good feeling about it all, is there, Packy?
I don't know, but they're just playing it. Hey!
You grew up in this parish,
I did, my God.
Coming in here to Upper Church now.
And hurled in it.
And you hurled with them?
I did, my God, yeah. Oh, Edmonton, unbelievable.
Yeah.
No. It's unbelievable. You couldn't describe it.
You couldn't describe it, no. No way.
You couldn't describe it. Hello, folks. Hello.
They're all over.
Look, say hello, Chick Farm.
How are you doing? We'll stay going for a minute. Yeah. This is the one, Packy. We're coming right up to the village now.
This is the one we're waiting for all our life.
Yeah.
And it is worth waiting for.
You're coming right across to see a sign of Paddy Canan's pub.
Yeah.
And what a remarkable week within Paddy Canan's pub.
Because We lost the true blue in Eve.
Absolutely.
She was a stalwart in the parish. They made up her church. She made up her church.
You're hardly able to talk, Peggy.
I'm so hoarse, Eamon. I'm sorry I made to give you a verse of the song at the moment.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, Eamon, I'm the head to describe it. First time ever I was caught for words.
But we're coming right into the church.
Yeah.
I know.
You're coming right into our lovely parish church.
Okay, I'll leave you there. I'll leave you there.
Hey!
How are you?
All good.
Good. This is an unbelievable occasion for you.
Unbelievable occasion. Probably never see it again here in Upchurch. The history's been made. What can I say? It's
been an extremely tough week for you guys.
Yeah, it's been an emotional week for us now, to be honest, with Neve's passing, and she was a big supporter of Upchurch and just pure. She was one of her last things was she was looking forward to seeing the bonfires burning high here around Tingham. We saw it here last night now, so amazing.
Wasn't it?
Amazing
match and the whole thing, wasn't it?
And amazing, so it is now. So it is.
Look at every success. And
they done the parish proud.
Didn't they though?
Oh, stop! Unbelievable.
There's crowds here from everywhere.
Oh, there's crowds from here. I'm seeing friends from all parishes around. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's one of those moments.
One of those moments.
Listen,
so it is.
thanks a lot.
Brilliant.
Liam Shanahan, how are you doing, Liam?
Good, not so bad at all now.
We're in the church now. You're two young fellas hurling that played Star games as well. How are you?
Good, not a bother now.
What a feeling.
Oh my God, yesterday was something else. Like, you'd never think where we were and how to get there. It was just something else that we'll never think about.
So it's so tight even to the last minute.
Well, it was up and down. We were 10 points up, and then we were thought we had won. And next thing, back to reality again. 2 goals in minutes. Such a topsy-turvy game. All emotions were there yesterday.
Wasn't it all?
Oh my God! It was the final whistle.
Was the greatest feeling you ever had at a hurling match?
Ever. We'll never replace it.
Yeah.
We'll never replace it.
And your two lads doing field well. Very well.
Yeah, Paul and Luke. Yeah, no, they did well. But sure, the whole team did well.
Of course they did. Yeah.
There's no one person is going to win any match. It has to be a collective, and they did it when it mattered yesterday.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but they're doing it all year. Like, do you know what I mean? They've shown all year from the time we got past Gorton who we have improved, and that's what got us over the line yesterday.
We're here actually in the church, and it's amazing what you'll be doing in the church.
Yeah.
It's not celebrating a win.
That's it. Like, we were at Mass there this morning. We never thought, but like you, with the crowd that's here, you'd never fit them in the hall below. So this is the right man. Father Tony, very good to let us into the church to celebrate this. Yeah. So
kind of halfway outside, but you don't mind.
No, you'd forget about the rain when you have this. You have the
cups. I think 3 or 4 cups has gone up there.
There's 3 cups there. Yes, it's great to have.
Yeah.
It's beyond our wildest dreams of what happened yesterday, and to get like we were. After winning the Munster, County Munster, do you know what I mean? We thought that was it, but there was no say died. They wanted to go the whole way, and it worked out yesterday. Yeah.
It was so touch and go at times, wasn't it?
Oh, it was very touch and go. Like it was. Do you know what I mean? You could never take your mind off of it, because we were up so far in the first 20 minutes, and then they came back, and then we were up in the last 10 minutes, and they came back and.
Yeah.
So
this goes 6 points just before half time.
Yeah. 6 points in and 8 points in before the game was over. Yeah. So we never felt easy that we were, even with 10 points up, but we thought we did one then. But it changed very quick before they got a goal straight away. So that changed back again. So, it was brilliant there. So, really enjoyed it.
Had you a good seat you had?
Oh, you good say, yeah.
The best seat in the house.
The best seat. We were looked after now in Croke Park. We got, we had dinner and all, so everything was. It was
lovely.
Yeah, no, it was brilliant.
Better than you're right.
Yeah, but sure. I suppose you know what I mean? Everyone has to be looked after. The parents have to be looked after, I suppose, and they were. Yeah. So the club always looked after them. So.
Seeing the lads here getting off the bus and all of that, only crowded chaps.
Oh, that's all. Oh, yeah, but that's...
That it, isn't it?
There's not too many old lads on it now. No, they'd be a lot stronger than me now.
Yeah, they'd be hardy though.
They'd be hardy, yeah. But so they're training. If you're training for the last year, you develop a lot of physique and muscle, kind of, and you'll be... So.
Listen, nice to talk to you, and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much.
What a great piece. Come on, the church and all of that. And you can hear Down Your Way in its entirety on Saturday morning, just after 10. Just some breaking news for you. A High Court judge has freed Aidan Burke from Mountjoy Prison, even though the school teacher has not purged his contempt. But Mr. Justice Brian Cregan said he was making the order in the interest of justice to allow Mr. Burke adequately prepare for a legal challenge he has brought against the appeals body that's considering whether Wilson's hospital school was correct to sack him. So it'll be interesting to follow that. Leanna's with me. Leanne, you're unsettled, you tell me, and upset as well.
Oh, Fran.
Why?
This factory piece has really hit my heart. Really. And I feel so sad because I passed the buildings and I never knew the stories. And I'm from that generation that orders everything online and you're waiting for postage. And it makes me so sad to think all the work that went into these factories, all the people who gave their lives working there to feed their families. And now you can't go down the street and find local products like that. Everything is ordered online, your clothes, your shoes, everything. And it makes me so sad. I feel like we lost something we didn't even know we lost.
So are you telling me, to your generation, this is all news to you, about these closures and the effect it had on communities? And
all news, because from the time I was young, that idea of big brands that were making things cheap abroad and bringing them in, that's always been the way. I've never went shopping and looked around and saw all local shops. Of course, there's the occasional one and people strive to support them, which is amazing, but that idea of everything in your locality being made there, everyone knowing each other, these factories being such a pillar in the community is something I've never experienced.
Now, other people have sort of grasped on to this idea as well. You have a lot of people coming on over the next few weeks on this, haven't you?
Huge. And it's people who've never been on the radio or on any kind of media in their life.
Well, it's just bringing them back to this time.
It's bringing them back, and they feel proud now to say that they were a part of this, something that's been lost, and the memories they've made there. And for a lot of them, it's not just they worked in one factory, they worked in multiple in the community as they closed down. So for them, their community is everything, and everyone they know today is because of those jobs.
Fantastic. Okay, so we're putting it out there already. You've had a lot of people make contact with it. We're putting it out there for people who worked in these various factories to make contact with us.
To make contact with us. We want to know what that was like when they did close, how it affected your town, but more so the memories you had there. What was it like being a pillar of the community?
Yeah, I'd love to hear from people as well who were at the meetings where the announcements were made that this is closing and what that was like at the time, because it must have been incredible.
Yeah, like the recession is something that has haunted so many people in Ireland. So I can only imagine being there in person and getting this news.
Yeah, that you're out of a job, out of work.
Where to go next? Where does the food come from?
Thanks for that, Leanne, and I'm sorry you're unsettled and upset and all of that. It's part of being on this show, I think. That's it for me. Leanne produced, Ali looks after content, Stephen has the time tunnel on the lunchtime show. We will speak to you tomorrow from Nina. In the meantime, look after yourselves. Bye-bye.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Hook On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Hook On. See slatterysgarage.ie.